Hey there, rock and roll podcast fans. This is Mike Hoban. Welcome to Rat Tales, the podcast that brings you the music and stories of the Boston rock scene that grew out of the mid-'70s at the Rat and some of the other hellhole joints, each with their own sick charm.
I'm the Nightlight Show on WBZ. This is Dick Summer with you on Radio 103. These things I offer you for a lifetime. Not a heck of a lot, maybe, but about all I've got. It's the heart that longs for you, 2 arms that'll be true, 2 lips with one desire to set your heart on fire. I think that's kind of nice. It's by the Playmates on the Nightlight Show on WBZ. This is Dick Summer with you on Radio 103, WBZ.
Lenny, this is a pleasure. Good question. And what I'd like to do, and I asked you about this before, and you said it'd be okay. I have a book called Staying Happy, Healthy, and Hot, a shameless plug. And in the book, there's a lot of stuff about radio, and specifically there is some stuff about Boston radio. And the folks at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame have been kind enough to include some of my stuff in there. And there's a guy who should be in there, a Boston guy who is not. And let me read just a little bit from the book. Today's top radio stations pull around a 10 in major markets. WBZ consistently pulled north of a 25. You will never see that again. The mouths at WBZ belong to Carl DeSuze, Dave Maynard, Jay Dunn, Jeff Kay, later Ron Landry, Bob Kennedy, Bruce Bradley, and me. But the brains and a lot of the heart of the radio station belong to the program director, Al Hickok. That's A-L-H-E-A-C-O-C-K, and I hope people will remember that name. Al was smart. He was a quiet guy, made a lot of money in the stock market, but he really didn't care about the stock market. Al cared about his radio station, WBZ. It was a station with tude, which is something else we get into in the book. We'll digress onto it right now. When we broadcast from our mobile studio, which was most of the time, we proudly wore our station blazers. Wasn't unusual at all for one of us to drop in on somebody else's show and kibitz for a while. When you walked down the beach, you didn't need to bring your own radio because everybody around you would have BZ on and turned up to stun. You stopped your car for a red light. You'd always hear WBZ coming out of the speaker in the car. Stopped next to you. Those were the days before the cars had air conditioning. The pimple people wouldn't understand. Pimple people is something else in the book. We'll get into that right now. And the reason that I wanted to do this is because you asked a very important question, Lenny. You said, talk about radio and in Boston. And in those days, unlike now, and probably never again in the future, radio was huge. It was huge for recordings. Okay, so for those of you who have never heard the station, and for those of you who work in radio and are curious about the legend that was WBZ, here's how Al programmed the music. Each month, there was a staff meeting. At the meeting, he would always remind us to play some of the top tunes that he left in the rack in the studio each week. And then he'd say, I don't want to hear 2 records back to back. We pay you guys to entertain. What a joy it was to be one of Al's guys. And when you listen to radio right now, everything is pre-programmed. They don't even have turntables or even CD players. It's all on MP3s. And, it's okay, but it's different. Anyway, here's what that means to you. If it weren't for Al Hickok, a man who knew how to say no and stick to his guns, classic rock might never have been born. At least it would have had a much longer labor and birth. Boston has always had a strong folk music tradition. At WBZ, we were constantly playing original tapes of unreleased songs like Sounds of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel, Urge for Going by Tom Rush, all kinds of stuff by Dylan and Baez and Sweet Judy Blue Eyes Collins. I was doing a weekly MC gig at the Unicorn Coffee House, which is a major folky spot in town. And I noticed that some of the artists were beginning to go electric, including Dylan. And I'll tell you a little side story about that. I MC'd a concert that was headlined by Joan Baez. And Joan Baez always brought another artist with her at that time because she was trying to give that artist a start. When she introduced the artist that she brought the night I was emceeing, the audience booed. The name of the artist, Bob Dylan. Ooh, that was just incredible to me. Anyway, I noticed some of the artists were beginning to go electric, including Dylan. And I invited Al to attend one night. He got it, and he got it right away. The next day, he instigated WBZ's only mandatory music rule. One liquid rock song per hour was what he said. Al called the music liquid rock, and that was the only thing he got wrong. He gave me 2 hours on Sunday evening for the first big-time underground rock radio show. He called it Dick Summer's Subway. Subway as in underground. Dylan went electric. Eric Clapton formed Cream. Got to interview Eric Clapton at a place called the Psychedelic Supermarket, which was one of the big rock places at the time. And it was really something. It was his first tour, the first tour of Cream. And he came in, what he said to me off mic was, I can't do an English accent, but he said it in his English accent. He said, I really hope our tour works out, because if it doesn't, the record company will probably drop us. Eric Clapton. They didn't. And Woodstock. It all forged a new musical and political conscience for America. Went roaring out on WBZ's 50,000-watt clear channel signal all the way from Massachusetts to Midway Island in the Pacific. I have an air check. Bunch of guys on Midway Island in the Pacific used to listen every night because they get it on a skip there. A bunch of guys from Boston, they sent me an air check from Midway Island in the Pacific. The suits who owned Group W Radio in New York were aghast. It wasn't top 40. It wasn't anything they recognized. They didn't like it, and they wanted it stopped right now. And here's where it gets really interesting. Al just very quietly said no. For a while, even the suits didn't want to mess too much with Al's 25 rating in Boston. Then Arlo Guthrie did a song called Alice's Restaurant, and it featured a line about the mother rapers and the father rapers on the Group W bench. The lawyers at Group W headquarters in New York and D.C. freaked. President of the group took a flight from New York to talk sense into this crazy program director, Al Hickok. Get it off the air, he said. Get it off now. Al just very quietly said no. It was a classic Big Suit versus radio guy, and Mr. Suit blinked. The order was changed to, well, at least edit that line out. Al just said no. Al was an honest guy. If you're going to play a song, you're going to play the song. You weren't going to do some crazy edit job on it. Anyway, if you're a radio professional, you'll realize how far out of line this is. Program director's a middle management guy. Al was talking to the president of the group. Okay? Whoa. Anyway, Mr. Suit decided to drop in on me personally one Sunday night for a friendly visit, as he put it. Engineer saw what was going on. He called Al to alert him to the situation, and 10 minutes later, Al was at the studio. And he asked Mr. Suit to join him for a quick meeting out of the studio. And that's the last I ever heard of the problem. A few months later, the great Tom Donahue climbed on underground music on his FM station out in San Francisco. Classical music, WBCN, went FM rock in Boston. The professor, Scott Muni, Roscoe, John Schwartz, and the crew took WNEW FM rock in New York. They invited me to join them, which I did. And in a little while, FM killed the AM king. Probably would have happened anyway, but the point is, when you hear Smoke on the Water, Bohemian Rhapsody, Light My Fire, or can't find the time to tell you, you're listening to some of the many echoes of that quiet but firm no. It's funny how this kind of thing kind of goes for your throat. Anyway, it's the no that Al Hickok said all those years ago. Al died a while ago, and I think it'd be appropriate to remember him next time you find yourself listening to Stairway to Heaven. That's from the book, and I thought maybe it answers some of your question. He was something. His name, Al Hickok. Please remember. Oh, that's an interesting question, too. We got to go back a few steps, I guess. A guy by the name of Alan Lorber is the guy who signed most of the Boston groups at that time. I never met Alan, and I don't, have any feelings towards him one way or another. He was a smart enough guy to sign some good groups. But he made a terrible mistake. He had some very, very good musicians, some good acts. He signed them, and then he tried to market them like you would market Jinsu knives. Now, this was a time, I remember, we're talking 1968, somewhere around that. This was Vietnam. This was RFK and Martin Luther King got killed. This was a tough time. And Alan Lorber did a kind of a plastic sort of a promo on this. If he had not, I think you would have heard a lot more of Orpheus and the Spinach and Beacon Street Union and Fluff and Eden's Children and Ford Theater and all of those guys, because there was talent there. These were talented people. But he tried to cram their stuff down people's throats. Well, as I was telling you in the book, Al Hickok at WBZ, we never had a format except for that one thing. He said he wanted us to play what later became classic rock, one cut per hour at least. So we did. And Ian Bruce Douglas came up to the station, and he gave me a tape, which became the Ultimate Spinach first album. And I really, they get a couple of cuts on there, the Hip Death Goddess, and Baroque. I liked Baroque a lot. And what else? Pamela. That was a pretty song. And I had him on the show a number of times. And Bruce Arnold came around one time, and he had, I think he had an acetate, which is an old time needle on the record kind of thing. And he, that was of course Orpheus and Can't Find the Time to Tell You. And these things were just wonderful. And I always believed that a radio station is supposed to help the artists in its area. And if WBZ was going to help the Boston Symphony, these guys were musicians too. So let's help them too. And that's what we did. We got on the truck there. I like having fun with people, and I asked people to take a paper clip and straighten it out, because that makes an S. And then you put the paper clip on your shirt. You know, just silly stuff like that. But it was a lot of fun. Does that answer your... I don't even remember what your question was. I'm sorry.
And it's so simple to get your Girl Watcher and Boy Watcher cards. Just send a self-addressed stamped envelope, if you would, to Watchers Club, WBZ, Boston 34, Massachusetts. And you will get your Girl Watcher or Boy Watcher card. It's that simple. Then what you want to do is, you know how it is. You're lying in the gutter, minding your own business, fellas. And this beautiful girl goes wiggling past. And naturally, you're going to watch. It's a natural thing, a chemical reaction of nothing else. And all of a sudden, her eyes, zap, grab yours. And there's this moment of indecision when you feel small and hateful. And she doesn't know what to do either. If she smiles, she's boy crazy. That's what all of her friends say. And if she doesn't smile, you know, it's too bad. Either that or she doesn't have a sense of humor. Or no teeth. That could also be a good example. But anyway, if you've got a Girl Watcher card and you whip out that Girl Watcher card, it immediately takes both of you off of the spot. And she's got to smile. As I said, unless she has no teeth. And if she has a Boy Watcher card, it's a great way to start a conversation.
Oh, you know, the honest answer about that is that I really don't know. WBZ was not a top 40 station. Let me go back a little bit again. WBZ was a personality station. You'll never hear another one again like it, ever. WMEX was a tight top 40 station. WRKO had not yet really kicked in. Everybody at WMEX, they went very strictly according to what record was selling somewhere. We didn't care. we played what we wanted to play. I give you some ideas of the specific songs that I remember. Marvin Gardens and The Clown from the Beacon Street Union. I like that one a lot. Eden's Children. How about Goodbye Girl? Like that one? Yeah. Ford Theater. Theme for the masses. Boom, 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 boom. There was such, and of course, the Orpheus album was full of such a lot of good stuff. I really loved it. Can't find the time. I guess that was probably the biggest hit out of the album. I really don't know. But that's the song keeps going around in my head. Oh, it was huge. It was huge. In fact, a number of songs. Remember Tom Rush by any chance?
Yes. Yep.
Tom brought a tape in. I'll never forget meeting him. He met me outside the station. He was wearing a blue pea jacket, old ragged jeans, and sneakers. He was probably 19 or 20 years old, something. Had a piece of tape in his hand. He said, I heard this girl while I was doing a tour in Canada. Her name is Joni Mitchell. He had recorded The Urge for Going. Whew. Took me 6 weeks to get my eyes closed. But that's how the station was. One night after I got off the air, I had done a record hop, and then we did the all-night show. And the guard came in and he said, there's a kid out here I'd like to play the guitar for you. Oh, God. I was tired and whatever. Oh, God, this kid is there. He's got a beaten-up old guitar, and he starts playing Malagueña Celerosa. Whew. Jose Feliciano. And what he said to me was, he listened to my show because, the station covered most of the country. And he said he used to listen to the show all the time while he was traveling. That's the kind of radio station it was. It was a one-on-one kind of a radio station. And I lost track of your question. I think that's a sign of a good question when you kind of lose track of what the heck it is.
That's by Manfred Man and Group, and it's called Do-a-diddy, diddy-dum-da-dee-doo. And in case you're wondering, that's Martian. Nightlight Show in WBZ in Boston. This is Dick Summer with you on Radio 103. Don't you ever think that possibly maybe the Martians are trying to communicate with us? Not only via the lyrics of some of our tunes, but also, for example, through the letters in our alphabet soup. Occasionally, it's spelled, right? And if you said that out loud, perhaps this lovely maiden would appear, saying, you called? I try it someday. She'd be known as the lady of the soup, huh? One of the Campbell family, driving around in a souped-up car. On the Nightlight Show on WBZ, cooking can be fun.
Yeah. I did a lot of emceeing at the time. Interviewed the Doors at, what the heck was the name of that place? I'm trying to remember. Wasn't the Tea Party. Crosstown Bus. Crosstown Bus was the name of the place. Got to interview the Doors, and that was an experience in and of itself. I won't get into that. At the Tea Party, I think it was Jeff Beck. And Jimmy Page was there. As I said, at the Psychedelic Supermarket, there was Cream, Eric Clapton. Janis Joplin was there the night that Orpheus played, and we did a live broadcast. And I was so impressed. She was such a tiny creature. And she started to sing, and just boom. And, of course, she left us way, way, way too early. Yeah, I was lucky. I got to see a lot of these people because the Dick Summer Subway Show, it was a perfect thing. It was Sunday night from 6 to 8, and it was on the WBZ Big Signal all over the country. Time Magazine did a little thing about it. And as a matter of fact, the station management, the top management, not Al, but the top management was a little bit concerned because almost every record we played became a hit. Because we were the only ones doing it until the guys out on the West Coast picked up on it. And we were, there was this huge feeling for it, and nobody was feeding it. So I wish Lorber hadn't done what he did. But, interestingly, some, as times repeat themselves, I think the attitude of most young people right now, and, most people looking at me now think this is gray hair. This is not. This is not gray hair. This is what I call my wisdom streaks. Sorry about that. But People right now, I think, have had it with having stuff crammed down their throats. I'm a Mets fan from my sins. I grew up in Brooklyn, National League team, so I was down at Mets spring training this past year down at Tradition Field in Port St. Lucie. And having had a couple of brews, I went into the men's room, and right there over the urinal, there was an ad for some urologist. I'm thinking, go away and leave me alone. If Lober had just brought this material around to BZ, there were a couple of stations that were programmed like the KYW in Cleveland, some of the stations out on the West Coast. He would have had his hit, and he wouldn't have had the pushback that the people who had it right up to here gave him. And it's just, I guess it's hindsight or something. I don't know. I emceed a lot at the Unicorn, and a lot of the guys were there. Emceed a lot of the Psychedelic Supermarket. The Unicorn and the Psychedelic Supermarket were owned by the same guy. The Psychedelic Supermarket really was not psychedelic. The Psychedelic Supermarket was the basement of a parking garage. It was a little weird, but everything was weird. The old Tea Party was in an old church, and it wasn't that something, because people were in there doing doing that hippie dance, the arms all the way out and the slow swaying and the big loopy steps, and everybody's talking stoned even if they weren't. I guess that was kind of the style at the time. Hey, man, ooh, crazy, babe, that kind of stuff. I could never get away with doing that. Again, the spinach, I got to know Ian a little bit, and a very interesting guy. He was a classically trained musician, and Ian suffered from... how can I delicately put this? Artistry is maybe a way to put it. Very, very talented guy, but he just couldn't get along with the guys in his band, and that was a shame. But as I said, I thought, the Hip Death Goddess was a great piece of stuff. Pamela. You listen to Pamela, you get a picture of that girl, And Baruch, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Baruch was based on a piece of music by Eric Satie, I think. And it was just really well done. And Orpheus and Can't Find the Time. There's a whole lot, so many good stuff. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Can't Find the Time.
Yeah.
On WBZ, this is Dick Summer with you. A song called Pretty Woman, I Dig You So Much.
Thanks for listening to Rat Tales, Boston Rock Stories. Rat Tales is produced and directed by Lenny Scolletta and Mike Hoban, with a huge thanks to Medford Community Media in beautiful downtown Medford, Massachusetts.